It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's not so beautiful if you're a Canadian investor and you've invested in the U.S. That's because it's going to cost you more to bring the money back home. So let's bring in lawyer Ron Nobrega. He's partner at Fasken in Toronto to answer some of the questions. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, so this actually could change tax laws that have gone back, I believe, for decades. What effectively is the rate right now to pay on income if you're a Canadian investor in the U.S.?
Well, if you're a corporate investor and you're getting dividends from a U.S. subsidiary, it's generally a 5% withholding tax rate. For individuals with dividend income from the U.S. payers, it's a 15% withholding tax rate.
And if things change?
Well, those rates would go up by 5 percentage points each year, up to a maximum of 50%. But that would take, in the case of corporations, 9 years. So hopefully we'll have this resolved before then.
Do you feel like it will pass? I mean, it's one of so many things in this huge bill. There have been, arguments about the bill, but I'm not sure that the Canadian perspective is going to be taken into account.
Well, I think that's right. I don't think this provision is particularly
contentious in the
that's
U.S.
Right.
Yes,
that's right. Now, having said that, the bill may not pass because there are contentious issues, even among the Republican senators. And second, this one provision involves a tax treaty override. And there is some commentary out there that a tax treaty override rule cannot pass, or there's issues with it passing, under the U.S. Senate's reconciliation rules. So this provision itself might need 60 votes. But that's not clear. It's an issue for the U.S. parliamentarian.
Has this ever been put forward this way? Has the tax rate on American income for Canadians ever been pushed up?
There was a risk of that under the FATCA rules that relate to foreign reporting or reporting of foreign bank accounts and other information. But we resolved that before that became a concern.
So how quickly could this happen if this bill does pass? Are we talking something that would take effect on income from this year, or would it take effect the year after that? Do we know?
The earliest it could apply would be 2026, and that would only occur if this bill were passed before October of this year.
Give me an idea of the hit that some institutional investments could have as a result of this.
Well, Canadian corporations, again, earning income from subsidiaries, they could have their rates going from 5%, increase to 10%, and then 15%, and onwards. It is surprising that Canadian pension plans could also be impacted, although the thinking is that it would only be on dividend income. The changes wouldn't apply to interest or even income from gains on U.S. real property. But some of that is still uncertain, and the bill could change.
Typically, are the pension funds exempt from something like this?
Yes, they're generally exempt from U.S. U.S. withholding tax on dividends and most interest income.
How does it work the other way? And I'm sure there are far more Canadians investing in the U.S. than there are perhaps Americans investing in Canada. But do we have a similar system where they get taxed? Well,
yes. Under the Canada-U.S. tax treaty, the rules are set, and comparable rates apply, comparable withholding tax rates and taxation of business income apply in each jurisdiction.
So about 5%?
Yes, in that case. In case of individuals, it's 15% on dividend income.
So can you see Canada then having to change its rules? But I'm not sure it would have the same kind of effect. As I mentioned, probably more Canadians investing there than there are Americans investing here.
It's possible Canada could change rules. I think what Canada would do is look to some of the other countries impacted by these potential changes, such as the United Kingdom and France, and to see what they're doing and probably play along.
Digital services tax is something that Donald Trump does not like, very specifically has pointed out and grieves him. Do you think much of what we're seeing here has to do really with that? And if Canada got rid of the digital services tax, the whole thing would go away?
The digital services tax is the main concern. There is another, so if Canada did eliminate it, the issue probably would go away. There is one other issue that Canada's proposing to adopt a rule under the Global Minimum Tax Act that if it adopted would also get us into this issue. But the Digital Services Tax Act is the main concern.
And the digital services tax, we have our own version, but so does Australia, so does the European Union?
Well, certainly countries within the European Union, like France and the UK. Well, UK is in Europe, but not the EU.
And is the same push happening for those countries to get rid of their digital services tax from the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think it's likely? I mean, Mark Carney has stood firm sort of on the digital services tax and companies, American companies that make money here and profit here. What's your take on whether or not that tax is negotiable for the Canadian government?
Well, the issue is under the Digital Services Tax Act is one of jurisdiction to tax. The U.S. sees this as their tax base that we're invading, essentially. And we think new rules should be developed for the digital economy and the taxation of income in the digital economy. And other countries agree with us. So the OECD has been negotiating something called Pillar 1, a new set of rules for allocating tax jurisdiction in the digital economy. But those negotiations have bogged down. That's why certain countries like Canada have moved independently with a digital services tax. Hopefully this will speed up that Pillar 1 process, or otherwise there'll be a resolution. I don't think every country is just going to walk away from their digital services tax.
How many countries are involved in the negotiations? Is the U.S. involved in that?
Yes, and about 140 countries have been involved in these negotiations, with the big ones being, our European partners and other sort of G7 countries.
But the U.S. is taking part, or at least they have an understanding or acceptance that perhaps something needs to be done.
The U.S. is resisting change because the tax base given up, about 2/3 of taxes that would be shifted under Pillar 1 would be U.S. taxes that would otherwise be part of the U.S. tax base. So they don't want to give up on that revenue.
Yeah, so they might be dragging their feet a little bit and coming to some sort of reconciliation with the other countries on this.
At a minimum, dragging their feet, yes.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Ron, I got to leave the conversation with you there. Appreciate you coming in on this. Thanks for sharing your expertise. Ron Nobrega is a partner at Fasken in Toronto. All right, the closing bell in just a couple of minutes. Let's take a quick look at the markets as they stand right now. Only the TSX to report today. It's Memorial Day in the U.S., so those markets are closed. And the TSX is up 183 points today. It pushed past that 26,000 mark we hit earlier last week. So a bit of a psychological mark there, but 26,063 is where we stand right now, up 16% over the year. We're back in a moment. Stay tuned.